We like to immortalize Nirvana as the band that murdered the 80s. We view them as the great cultural reset, the moment where glam and hair metal was replaced by the authentic, sludge-filled depression of the Pacific Northwest. But that narrative ignores the mechanics of why the band, and specifically Dave Grohl as a drummer, actually worked. You realize that Nirvana wasn't a punk band. In fact, the rhythmic architecture has almost nothing to do with the Seattle scene. Grohl didn't make Nirvana heavier, he actually made them danceable. We think of him as a primitive force of nature, like a human jackhammer on the drum kit. But that brutality masks a very specific, calculated theft. Other bands were trying to play faster or sludgier, but Dave was effectively playing breakbeats, learning that swing from the epicenter of the scene, Washington, D.C. D.C. in the 80s was a split landscape of music. You had the legendary hardcore scene, Bad Brains, Minor Threat, Government Issue, who preached speed and aggression. But the actual airwaves were dominated by go-go. If you're not familiar with go-go, it's a subgenre of funk music originating in the DC area in the mid-60s. It's defined by syncopated rhythms and conga drums, spawning some of the most memorable breakbeats in history. And this is where Grohl found his breakthrough style. He openly admits that the drumming on Nevermind isn't metal or punk at its core. It's a direct appropriation of this get-up-and-groove, go-go spirit. And this isn't speculation. Grohl openly admitted that the drumming on Nevermind is basically a ripoff of the Gap Band. As they say though, good artists copy, great artists steal. Here's the confession.
If you listen to Nevermind, the Nirvana record, I pulled so much stuff from the Gap Band and Cameo and Tony Thompson on every one of those songs. All that. That's old disco. That's all it is.
It changes how you hear history a little bit, doesn't it? Look at Smells Like Teen Spirit. The cultural memory of that song is a mosh pit, a time of youthful anxiety and heaviness. But mechanically, that is dance music. The massive flam intro, the way the kick drum skips the downbeat, that is disco. I find this all to be incredibly interesting. Kurt Cobain provided the friction, the noise, the alienation, the punk ethos. But Grohl provided the actual structure that allowed them to be successful. If Nirvana had a drummer who played like a metalhead, they would have been the Melvins. Respected, heavy, but commercially capped. By injecting the swing of go-go into the rigid structure of grunge, Dave Grohl created a Trojan horse in a way. He tricked millions of angry, disaffected suburban kids into loving funk music. It's just a reminder that heaviness is often just a texture. The lyrics add some flavor, but the real backbone of the biggest rock band in the last 30 years wasn't hatred or apathy. It was rhythmic utility. And that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.